Look at that. Wow.
Firefight burn.
Okay. That was awesome. Awesome. It was awe-inspiring as well.
Now this year is the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. It's an event that played a big part in the history of Goodwood, as we'll find out shortly. But not far from here is the churchyard of St Mary and St Blaise on the Goodwood estate. Now there's a headstone there that simply reads, "He died for England." It's the grave of Billy Fiske, one of several US airmen who fought in the Battle of Britain. Here's his story.
This is the final resting place of William Meade Lindsley Fiske III. Known as Billy, he was a bobsleigh record holder and the youngest American ever to win a gold medal at the Winter Olympics. Billy also loved England, loved motorsport, and he loved Bentley. And when he moved here to study at Cambridge, he ordered a British racing green blower Bentley to the same specs as Sir Henry Birkin's Le Mans winning cars. Tearing around the country lanes from golf course to golf course, Billy was fast. He chalked up an average speed of 121.4 miles per hour at Brooklands, and he even competed in Le Mans himself at the age of just 19. When Britain declared war, Fiske became one of the first to volunteer. Despite it being illegal, he convinced RAF recruiters that he was Canadian so he could join. He wrote of his motives. "The English have been damn good to me in good times, so, naturally, I feel I ought to try and help out, in bad if I can." Having trained in Tiger Moths and Gloucester Gladiators, Billy's first time flying a Hurricane was when he was posted to 601 Squadron at Tangmere, near Goodwood. 601 Squadron were one of the most prestigious outfits in the Royal Air Force, the so-called millionaires mob, volunteers from the London clubs. These playboy pilots lined their uniform tunics with bright red silk and refused to wear the regulation black ties. "Black is so morbid, we'll only wear it for funerals," said one of the leaders. They wouldn't have long to wait. Billy's maiden flight in a Hurricane was on the 14th of July 1940. And just 6 days later, he was in action, flying 42 sorties in 27 days, claiming 2 Messerschmitts shot down, 2 damaged, and forcing a bomber into a barrage balloon. Fiske's flight commander wrote, "Unquestionably, Billy Fiske was the best pilot I've ever known. It was unbelievable how good he was. He picked it up so fast, it wasn't true. He was a natural as a fighter pilot." On the 16th of August 1940, the squadron scrambled to intercept an enemy formation heading for 601's base. With bombs falling on the airfield, the fighters swooped and soared in individual combat against the onrushing forces. Billy's Hurricane was hit, knocking out the engine. But rather than bail out, he struggled to save the precious plane, gliding the Hurricane back to base. Landing with its wheels up, the aircraft immediately burst into flames. And although he was pulled out of the plane, his lower body was severely burned, and sadly, Billy died the next day. Buried at Boxgrove Priory Church, there was widespread coverage, with Churchill taking a personal interest in the story. Sir Archibald Sinclair, Secretary of State for Air, said, "Here was a young man for whom life held much. Under no compulsion, he came to fight for Britain. He came, and he fought, and he died."
Incredible and moving story of Billy Fiske. So this year is the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. Between July and October 1940, RAF pilots with an average age of 20, supported by many people on the ground, took to the skies to defend Britain from the Luftwaffe. At a time, Goodwood was an airbase, Westhampnett, and it played an important role in the operation. So to commemorate the 80th anniversary and Goodwood's role in the Battle of Britain, I had the honour of taking to the skies for a reenactment of a dogfight. So I'm about to take to the air here at Goodwood for a choreographed dogfight with Spitfires and a Messerschmitt. Now there's no way I can possibly comprehend what it's like to be in an actual dogfight. And with that in mind, I thought rather than try, I'd read just a few words from this book. It's a book by a guy called Geoffrey Wellham, who died a couple of years ago. I had good fortune to meet Geoffrey. He's a lovely, very kind man. And he was a very good writer, and he wrote about his experiences in the Battle of Britain. He was a Battle of Britain pilot, and I think this sums up how those pilots must have felt every morning, more so than I could ever do. One after the other, Spitfires are starting up. The fitters warm up the engines, 12 Merlins at 1,200 revs or thereabouts. The power of the moment is awe-inspiring. The still morning air reverberates with the sound of harnessed energy. Slipstreams flatten the grass behind the quivering aircraft. In a way, it's exciting, it's wonderful, and not without a certain beauty. It's also tragic. Which one of us is going to be killed on this day? Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Very excited about this today. So listen, I've been so lucky. I've been up a couple of times, mostly with you, Matt. But this is going to be something different today, right?
Well, we're going to shoot John down today, which we've never done before.
Is that on your bucket list? So explain to me what we're doing today and how it's going to work.
We're doing a mixture of things, Dermot. It's going to start off with formation takeoff. So the Mark 1s are getting airborne, and then you're getting airborne with them. So it'll be 3 Spitfires getting airborne together. I'll then bounce you, basically, when you're into that. So there'll be a time when you'll see the 109 flash by, just as it would have done. And then it's a peel into that, as if we were then going into combat. It's going to be should be quite dramatic.
And in terms of what the pilots would have gone through during the Battle of Britain and afterwards, what strikes me when read the first-hand accounts is just the utter chaos, and then this chaos through to tranquility. Like if you read Tom Neal's book, and then suddenly he looks up, and suddenly he's in the middle of nowhere.
Everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it used to happen a lot, and certainly with some of the guys. You read some of the Germans' accounts as well, when they would get into hard combat, and they would flick out of the manoeuvre because they're pulling so hard, the aircraft would flick and descend and drop away from the fight. When they climbed back up, everyone's gone.
yeah.
So, and that happened quite often, I think.
So we should looking at a kind of a modicum of what they would have gone through
Just a sense of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But you'll certainly get a sense of the dynamism. You know, we're doing everything we can so that we don't risk our lives doing this, obviously, which is what they faced every day. But in terms of what the aeroplanes are capable of and what they might have seen, certainly you'll get 75, 80% of that.
All right. Well, I get it, sort of. What do we do now?
I think we go flying.
All right.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks, John. Cheers, guys.
The big raid came when we were all having lunch in the mess, and suddenly the tannoy went absolutely mad. 616 Squadron Scramble, 616 Squadron Scramble.
Oh, you sprinted. You got to your aircraft as quickly as possible. There's no doubt about that. You had to run.
When the call to action came, aircrews and the pilots had no time to waste. Every second counted in the quest to intercept the German aircraft as they headed towards their target. From their air bases, Allied pilots would cover large sections of the coastline. Once airborne, they sometimes never made contact with the enemy.
With brilliant daring, these young men, many of them in their teens, more often than not hopelessly outnumbered by the enemy, went up from scores of aerodromes, to fight a ruthless foe who came day after day and night after night to kill, murder, and wantonly destroy. Every hour of every day, our gallant airmen were turning the tide of war by their skill, courage, and devotion to duty.
Already, you're just in awe of what these guys went through. When you read the pilot's testimony, they all enjoyed flying it in battle, post-battle, just as an aircraft to fly so much. It feels, dare I say it, almost sedate as you're flying around, just enjoying the air. Get the feeling what it must have been like to just be up flying, feeling quite serene. And that's the thing that strikes me, is the change and the difference between this serenity. Suddenly your action takes over and all hell breaks loose.
We were jumped by some 109s out of the sun. The first we knew about it was a frantic shout, "Brake, brake, brake," which meant you didn't sit around arguing, you just broke.
Dogfighting was chaos. Occasionally you chase something, fighters against fighters. But the actual dogfight itself, something flashed across the gun sight. You fired your guns and hoped you'd hit.
Big downwind, contact to ahead.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
The intense manoeuvres that took place in dogfights put incredible pressures on the pilots' bodies, and it took all my strength and focus not to feel too queasy.
How do you feel, Dermot? Quite a tight turn. No, okay. That's incredible. We got him! It doesn't feel like we got him. That was awesome. Awesome. It was awe-inspiring as well. The appreciation you have for these guys. Just the attention to detail, the fact they're up there, what it does to their bodies, what it does to their minds, the fact they have to then fly the aircraft, and then, without even getting into the fact that they're either trying to shoot someone down or stop themselves getting shot down. And you're up there, and we saw the 109 and the other Spitfire. And when you're on the ground, you can tell that's a 109 and that's a Spitfire. When you're up there, no idea. And asking these 19-year-old kids who've had minimal training to just identify the aircraft, let alone shoot them down. Wow. That was awesome, Matt.
That's great fun, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Well done.
I know. Sick bag still in the pocket.
Sick bag number 2 is.